Imagine waking up to the news that your primary overseas manufacturer just went offline completely without warning. Or picture realizing a sudden, totally unpredictable shift in consumer demand has literally drained your entire Q4 inventory in just a matter of hours. You know that sinking feeling in your gut? Right. Well, that is the raw, unmitigated cost of uncertainty. Okay, let's dive right into this explainer and transform all that chaos of unpredictable business environments into clear, quantifiable strategies. If you've ever looked at a massive, incredibly complex management problem and felt just completely paralyzed by the sheer volume of possible outcomes, you're in the right place. Today, we're exploring the foundational source material on statistical frameworks for managerial uncertainty. We're going to look at exactly how probability distributions can serve as your ultimate toolkit to systematically model that uncertainty and actually regain control.
We've got 5 distinct items on the agenda for this explainer to systematically build out these tools. 1. Managing the unknown. 2. The normal baseline. 3. Success and failure outcomes. 4. Time and event counts. And finally, 5. The managerial payoff.
Let's jump right into Section 1, Managing the Unknown, Modeling Uncertainty in Business.
So, when you're making high-stakes decisions in these highly unpredictable environments, you've really got to ask yourself, how do we actually model uncertainty to bring some kind of order to all this chaos? I mean, think about those sudden supply chain disruptions and those wild shifts in consumer behavior we just talked about. You literally can't guess your way to long-term success when the ground is moving right underneath you, right? You need a rigorously structured approach. And our source material tells us the answer lies in probability distributions. These mathematical frameworks, they aren't just dry academic exercises. No, they're specifically designed to take the sprawling, messy nature of uncertainty and model it into something you, as a manager, can actually anticipate, financially model, and strategically plan for.
Moving on to Section 2, the normal baseline, your first tool. The normal distribution is that absolute classic foundational bell curve model. Now, you already know what a bell curve looks like, for sure. But let's talk about why it's the standard foundational model for operations. In a business context, it captures the natural baseline of so many variables we encounter every single day. Whether you're modeling standard employee performance metrics across a massive enterprise, measuring the natural variance in manufacturing defect rates on an assembly line, or tracking daily sales volumes for a flagship product, all these variables naturally just want to cluster around an average. Recognizing when your business problem fits this specific model, well, that's step 1 to eliminating those nasty surprises.
And the absolutely crucial insight here is the power of perfect symmetry. Now, perfect symmetry is a pretty rare luxury in business, but when you can prove your operational data fits this model, meaning the mean, the median, and the mode all coincide exactly in the middle, it gives you an unprecedented level of forecasting power. This alignment creates a highly predictable center point. It means you're not flying blind. You know exactly where the vast majority of your outcomes are going to land, and you can calculate just how rare those extreme outliers on either end of the curve will actually be.
All right, Section 3, Success and Failure Outcomes, the outcome checkers. Because let's be real, not everything in business falls into a nice, smooth, forgiving bell curve. Sometimes that luxury just doesn't exist, and you're facing a cliff. You need a straight-up, binary yes or no. That's where the Bernoulli distribution comes in. It's a model for capturing success or failure outcomes in a single trial version. It's designed entirely around a stark binary result, absolute success or complete failure. Imagine you're staring down a massive make-or-break regulatory compliance audit for your main manufacturing plant. There is no partial credit here. It's a single trial. You either pass the audit and keep the doors open, or you fail and operations grind to a dead halt. Bernoulli gives you the exact framework to quantify the probability of that one specific high-stakes action working out. But what happens when we scale that whole thing up? What happens when you do that exact same action over and over again? Well, the binomial distribution takes those exact same success or failure outcomes and models them across repeated trials. Let's stick with that compliance audit scenario for a second. Imagine you aren't just looking at one massive headquarters audit. Instead, you're trying to predict how many of your 500 individual retail store locations will pass their monthly surprise health inspections. You're taking that single binary event, pass or fail, from the Bernoulli framework and multiplying it out. This lets you understand the wider pattern, forecasting exactly how many total successes or failures you should realistically expect across a whole series of attempts. So the really crucial point of contrast to remember here is volume. Bernoulli gives you an isolated snapshot of a single trial. It's that one defining moment. Meanwhile, the binomial distribution steps back to capture the broader landscape across repeated trials, modeling your aggregate risk. Knowing exactly which of these outcome checkers to pull from your toolkit depends entirely on whether you're looking at one isolated do-or-die event or managing a massive, sprawling portfolio of them.
Which brings us to Section 4, Time and Event Counts, the time trackers.
Our next category of tools shifts our focus away from just counting specific binary outcomes to actually tracking dynamic events as they crash into us over time. In business, time is quite literally money, and knowing how frequently things happen within a given operational window is absolutely critical for survival. The Poisson distribution is a fantastic tool for answering how many by modeling the exact event counts over time. Picture this, it's Cyber Monday. You just launched a massive new software product, and you need to model the exact number of customer service calls that are going to flood your call center during that critical 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. launch window. If you underestimate, hold times skyrocket and your brand takes a massive PR hit. Poisson is the framework you deployed to model that incoming volume so you can survive the surge.
Conversely, the exponential distribution flips the script completely. Instead of counting the sheer number of events inside a block of time, it's a model for tracking the agonizing waiting times until those events actually occur. It focuses strictly on the duration between occurrences. Let's connect this directly back to our Cyber Monday call center. If Poisson models the total number of calls hitting the switchboard in that hour, exponential models the actual time gap between one phone ringing and the very next phone ringing. This is how you figure out if your reps are going to be completely overwhelmed with back-to-back screaming matches, or if they'll actually have 30 seconds to breathe and reset.
Honestly, these two frameworks are really just two sides of the exact same managerial coin. Poisson tells you the total volume of hits you're going to take over time, while the exponential distribution tells you exactly how long you'll be holding your breath, waiting until the next one strikes. Together, they give a manager a complete end-to-end picture of time-based operational stress.
Finally, let's step into Section 5, the managerial payoff, applying the frameworks.
Let's put this all together and translate these theoretical models directly into hard operational business value, because each distribution in our toolkit has specific conditions and unique mathematical properties. You can confidently deploy them to conquer everyday management contexts. Imagine a chief operating officer navigating a totally chaotic quarter. First, they use the normal distribution to confidently forecast Q3 revenue, knowing their historical sales data clusters beautifully around a predictable mean. Next, they pivot to staffing their massive e-commerce fulfillment warehouse. They use the Poisson and exponential distributions to predict exact customer order volumes hour by hour, ensuring they never overpay for idle labor or, worse, understaff during a rush. Finally, they look at a massive, risky new vendor contract. They lean right into binomial logic for rigorous risk analysis, calculating the exact probability that a certain number of shipments will fail quality control before they even sign the deal. It's all about mapping the right mathematical framework to the specific management crisis sitting right there on your desk.
We've seen how probability distributions can take the great unknown and make it definitively actionable, from the perfect symmetry of the normal baseline to tracking strict successes and calculating exact operational waiting times. This toolkit literally turns chaos into strategic clarity. Uncertainty just isn't an excuse for poor management anymore. It's honestly just a variable waiting for the right equation. So I'll leave you with this. Which distribution will you need tomorrow to conquer uncertainty in your business? When that next crisis inevitably hits, will you be guessing or will you be calculating? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time as we continue to break down the complexities of the business world.